Her name was Chloe Bennett. She was 25 years old and lived in a small apartment overlooking the rain-soaked rooftops of Seattle. That evening, Chloe had barely stepped through the door with the most important contract of her career tucked inside her bag when Harper placed her twin sons in front of her and said Chloe could cancel whatever plans she had because single people never had anything important to do. Toby tracked mud across the cream-colored rug. Harper turned away before Chloe could answer. Mrs. Elena handed her youngest daughter a cleaning cloth and told her not to make things difficult for her sister. Mr. Thomas remained focused on the financial news. Chloe bent down and wiped away each muddy footprint. Her jaw tightened. No one noticed that the bag beneath the chair held an agreement capable of changing her life. Chloe's parents lived on an old street in the northern part of the city, where the windows stayed fogged throughout the year. Along the staircase was an entire chronicle of Harper's life. Harper at graduation, Harper standing outside the bank building, Harper in her wedding dress beside their parents. Leo and Toby appeared in silver frames that nearly covered the wall. Chloe had once had a photograph there too. It showed her standing beside a model of the community library she had designed while she was still in school. One winter, the frame disappeared to make room for a birthday photograph of the twins. Chloe found it beneath a box of decorations, the glass cracked diagonally across her face. From childhood, Chloe had understood that Harper's achievements were events, while her own were merely details. When Chloe earned a design scholarship, Mr. Seplizerly, wa for is a T-plime brown, with plime vungen, is a T-plime stubbly. Thomas told her she should be grateful that the family would not have to pay her tuition. That same week, he borrowed money to renovate Harper's kitchen. Chloe studied while working evening shifts at the library. She ate cold sandwiches beside the copy machine, slept on the bus, and took design projects on weekends. Harper often called on Friday nights, not to ask whether Chloe was free, but simply to tell her when she would be dropping off the children. Whenever Chloe hesitated, her sister reminded her about blood ties and aunt's responsibilities. The manipulation never sounded threatening. It was soft, sweet, and it tightened around her throat like a velvet cord. The moment that changed, Chloe came on a November afternoon. She had saved for nearly a year to buy a specialized tablet. While she was making tea, Harper let Leo use it to play games. He dropped the device onto the stone floor. The screen shattered, and black lines spread beneath the glass like spilled ink. Harper only shrugged. Mrs. Elena told Chloe not to leave expensive things within a child's reach. Mr. Thomas said she could buy another one because she did not have children to support. No one apologized. No one offered to have it repaired. They simply waited for her to smile and say it was fine. But this time, Chloe did not smile. She picked up the broken device, placed it in her bag, and walked out of the house into the cold rain. Harper thought her sister was overreacting. Mrs. Elena was only worried that dinner had been ruined. Mr. Thomas believed Chloe would come back. None of them knew the tablet contained the sketches for the branding campaign Harper's corporation was doing everything it could to secure. Nor did they know that the design company behind the project belonged to Chloe. In her family's eyes, she was still only the quiet youngest daughter who was always available when they needed her. But beyond the doors of that fog-covered house, Chloe Bennett was anything but invisible. She held enough decision-making power to force everyone who had underestimated her to look again. The morning of Chloe's 25th birthday began with a message from Harper. "Do not be late. Mom has prepared a surprise for you." Chloe stared at those words for a long time. She knew her family's surprises were rarely meant for her. Her name was only the reason everyone gathered, and by the end, every pair of eyes would still turn toward Harper. That evening, her parents' house glowed through the Seattle rain. When Chloe stepped inside, Leo and Toby rushed out of the living room, each wearing a paper crown. A sign on the wall celebrated the boys' first day at their children's club. Chloe's name appeared in the bottom corner, almost completely hidden behind balloons. The cake in the middle of the table was covered in blue frosting and decorated with trains. The words wishing Chloe a happy birthday were squeezed between Leo's and Toby's names. Mrs. Elena said the family had decided to combine the celebrations for convenience. Harper laughed and said the children were excited, so Chloe would not mind. Chloe looked around. No one found it strange. In the room filled with laughter, she felt as though she were standing behind a thick pane of glass. Harper believed her sister had forgotten about the tablet. Mr. Thomas saw Chloe's silence as proof that she had finally grown up. No one understood that it was the silence of someone who had stopped asking permission to be respected. After the candles were blown out, Mr. Thomas placed a cream-colored envelope in front of Chloe. Inside was the itinerary for a week-long vacation in Tofino. A villa by the ocean, private transportation, and dinners that had already been reserved. Then Mr. Thomas pointed to the room assignment. Chloe would be sharing a room with Leo and Toby. He explained that Harper needed time to rest. Chloe was unmarried, had no children, and had more flexibility. During the day, the whole family would spend time together. In the evenings, she would only need to watch the twins so Harper and her husband could have some privacy. Just a few hours. The phrase landed on the table like a heavy object. Chloe remembered the weekends that had been taken from her, the meetings she had been forced to leave halfway through, and the shattered tablet. She also remembered that the contract Harper was pursuing still awaited Chloe's final signature. Harper leaned forward, her voice sweet, as though she were granting her sister a favor. She said Chloe should be happy she did not have to pay for the trip. That was when Chloe put down her spoon. The sound of metal touching porcelain was small but sharp, slicing through the laughter. Chloe said she would not be going. The room froze. The smile vanished from Harper's lips. Mrs. Elena looked at her daughter as though she had just heard an insult. Mr. Thomas frowned and asked what Chloe was sulking about. Chloe did not raise her voice. She said she had not been invited on a vacation. They were simply handing her an unpaid shift and calling it a birthday gift. Harper gave a dry laugh and called her selfish. Mrs. Elena spoke about family obligations. Mr. Thomas said Chloe was ruining the plan. Every word was familiar, but this time, none of them could reach her. Chloe stood up. She looked at each of them and said they could continue with the trip, but they would have to take care of their own children. Harper went pale. She did not merely need a babysitter. She needed Chloe to keep playing the weak younger sister, so no one would question who truly held the power between them. Chloe picked up her coat and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she looked at the cake bearing other people's names and said the best gift her family had given her that night was helping her understand that it was time to stop living as everyone's backup option. Outside on the porch, the rain struck her face with icy force, but for the first time, Chloe did not feel as though she had been left behind. She felt herself walking away. For 6 days after the birthday party, Chloe did not argue with anyone. Harper sent one long message after another, sometimes blaming her, sometimes trying to soothe her, and sometimes reminding her how much Leo and Toby had been looking forward to the trip. Mrs. Elena called every evening, her voice gentle, though every sentence tried to pull Chloe back into her familiar role. Mr. Thomas sent only one short message, telling her not to turn a small issue into a major conflict. Chloe read everything. She did not respond. Her silence convinced Harper that her sister would eventually give in. In Harper's mind, Chloe had always been that way. She might become upset, she might disappear for a few hours, but she would always come back, still carrying the twins' bags, still apologizing even when she had done nothing wrong. This time, they were mistaken. Every morning before leaving for the office, Chloe placed one item inside the dark blue suitcase beneath her bed. 2 sweaters, a leather-bound notebook, her computer charger, the old camera whose lens she had replaced with money saved over many months. She was not packing for Tofino. She had rented a small cabin on the Oregon coast, several hours from Seattle and in the exact opposite direction. The cabin stood behind a row of pine trees and overlooked a stretch of ocean often covered in mist. There was no luxurious resort, no schedule, no one waiting for her to serve them. Chloe also opened a new bank account and moved all her savings into it. She canceled access to the services her parents had taken for granted and continued charging to her card. The television account, the maintenance costs for Harper's car, the recurring payments for the twins' weekend classes. Every time she pressed the confirmation button, Chloe felt another old link falling away from her wrist. At the office, she continued working as usual. No one in the family knew that the top floor of the glass building where Harper was trying to secure the contract was the same place where Chloe ran a design company under the business name Bennett North. Chloe had never hidden her abilities. Her family had simply never cared enough to ask. On Thursday afternoon, Chloe's assistant placed the project file on her desk. Harper's corporation had submitted its final proposal. Harper believed her company was about to win because she had spent months building relationships with senior leadership. She did not know that Chloe was the person with final decision-making authority. Chloe turned through each page. The proposal was filled with impressive numbers, ambitious promises, and a section of ideas that almost perfectly matched the sketches once stored on the shattered tablet. Chloe's eyes stopped moving. Harper had not only looked down on her sister, she had copied her work. In the quiet glass office, Chloe did not become angry. Her calm was more frightening than anger. She closed the file, asked the legal department to investigate the origin of every idea, and instructed them not to contact Harper until they had reached a conclusion. That evening, Harper sent another message. "Remember to bring Toby's cough medicine. I do not have time to buy it." Chloe looked at the screen for several seconds, then deleted the message. At her parents' house, suitcases filled the living room. Mrs. Elena prepared snacks for the trip. Mr. Thomas checked the plane tickets. Harper bragged that the vacation would help her relax before signing the biggest contract of her career. No one realized that Chloe held both the trip and Harper's professional future in her hands. The night before their departure, Chloe returned to the old house to collect a few documents she had left behind. Laughter drifted from the living room. Leo and Toby's sleeping bags lay on the couch, with a note bearing Chloe's name attached to them. Chloe removed the note. She walked past the wall of photographs and stopped in front of Harper's wedding portrait. In the reflection of the glass, she no longer saw the younger sister who had once kept her head lowered. She saw a woman who had built her own career, paid the price for her freedom, and finally understood that real power did not need to announce itself. Chloe turned the frame face down on the table. The sound was barely audible, but inside her, it echoed like a door closing. On the morning of their departure, Chloe left Seattle before the sun could break through the gray clouds. She placed the blue suitcase in the trunk, pulled the zipper of her coat all the way to her neck, and looked at her parents' house one last time. Through the living room window, Mrs. Elena was bending down to pick up toys. Mr. Thomas was checking the plane tickets. Harper was talking on the phone while ordering her husband to carry more luggage to the car. No one saw Chloe. She opened the door and said she was leaving ahead of them. Mrs. Elena merely waved, her eyes never leaving Leo's bag. In her mind, her youngest daughter was heading to the airport as planned. Harper also believed Chloe would appear at the right moment to take charge of the twins. She had never imagined her sister could truly step beyond her control. Chloe drove south. Seattle receded in the rearview mirror. The buildings disappeared, replaced by pine forests, mountain roads, and an increasingly open sky. When her phone rang for the first time, Chloe did not need to look to know who was calling. Harper, then Mrs. Elena, then Mr. Thomas. The calls continued as the family realized Chloe was not at the airport. She stopped at a rest area and opened the message she had written the night before. "I told you I was not joining the trip. I am taking a vacation of my own. I hope you all have a good time." Chloe pressed send, then turned off her phone. At the airport, Harper read the message and went still. The twins began to cry because their aunt was not there. Mrs. Elena accused Chloe of deliberately embarrassing the entire family. Mr. Thomas told Harper to remain calm, but even he did not know what to do without the daughter who had always handled every problem in silence. For the first time, they were forced to carry their own luggage, comfort the children themselves, and face the responsibilities they had always pushed onto Chloe. The cabin in Oregon stood beyond a narrow road covered in pine needles. When Chloe arrived, the ocean was churning beneath a silver sky. There were no screaming children, no one calling her name from another room. There was only the wind moving beneath the roof of the porch and the cold scent of salt spreading through the air. She stood at the door for a long time. At first, the silence left Chloe feeling empty. She had lived for so long, surrounded by other people's demands, that she was no longer accustomed to being somewhere no one needed anything from her. Then she opened a window, made a cup of tea, and sat looking at the ocean. For the first time in years, Chloe did not have to run. 2 days later, she turned on her phone. Dozens of messages poured in. Harper called her selfish. Mrs. Elena said she had ruined the vacation. Mr. Thomas demanded that she come home and apologize. Not one of them asked where Chloe was. No one asked whether she was safe. Chloe read every message. She did not cry. At that moment, an email arrived from the legal department. The investigation confirmed that the ideas in Harper's proposal had been taken from designs owned by Bennett North. Harper's company was removed from consideration. The violation report was forwarded to the executive board. Harper would have to explain why Chloe's internal materials had appeared in her proposal. Chloe stared at the screen for a long time. She could have called Harper and told her that the person who had just rejected the contract was her own sister. She could have revealed the entire truth and forced Harper to feel the humiliation she had poured onto Chloe for years. But Chloe did not do that. She simply instructed the legal department to continue handling the matter according to procedure. It was not revenge. It was consequence. A few days later, Harper finally learned that Bennett North belonged to her younger sister. She sat motionless inside the villa overlooking the sea in Tofino, her face drained of color. Every memory came rushing back. The shattered tablet. Chloe's silences. The sketches Harper had secretly photographed. Harper had once believed Chloe was weak because she never fought back. Now she understood that Chloe's silence had been strength gathering itself. On the Oregon beach, Chloe picked up a gray stone crossed by a white vein. She held it in her palm and continued walking forward. Her family was still there. The wounds could not disappear after a single trip, but Chloe had changed. She was no longer waiting for someone to give her a place on the family wall. She had built a life in which she no longer needed permission to exist. Sometimes the strongest choice is not fighting back, but finally refusing to remain where you are ignored, used, and underestimated. Chloe did not destroy her family. She simply stopped allowing them to build their comfort on her silence. Do you think Chloe made the right decision, or should she have given her family another chance? Share your opinion in the comments, because this story may divide more people than you expect. If you enjoyed this emotional journey, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories about family betrayal, hidden strength, karma, and people who finally take back control of their lives.